is moving in a great direction, but it's not the only direction we can look. One of my favorite things to do is look back, pulling through the past. At this point, we're going to go straight west on Highway 36, maybe the only time that U.S. Highway 36 has had a complete and total takeover of the Let's Grow Pulling podcast, welcoming the entire Grimes family, Trent, Justin, and Gerald Grimes. I've got some cool photos. You guys sent me more cool photos. Can't wait to talk about it. Thanks for joining us. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing good. So
Excellent.
I got done planting corn about an hour ago, so it's a good day.
You finished planting? We're done?
Well, with corn. So we got
done with corn. Done with corn. Wonderful. So Grimes family out of Osborne, Missouri. Like I said, that's going to be about an hour and a half straight west of where I'm at here in northern Missouri. How much farming do we guys do over there? How many acres do you take care of?
We've got just shy of 2,500 acres row crop, and then a small cow herd, enough to keep us all busy.
Perfect. Absolutely. Well, congratulations on getting the corn in the ground, and keep on planting, keep on working. So obviously, gentlemen sitting in the middle, I'm assuming you're Gerald. Trent and Justin, go ahead and introduce yourselves. That way the whole world knows who they're chatting with.
I'm Trent.
And I'm Justin.
Perfect. Good to put a face with you gentlemen here. Well, let me bring you up to speed as to what I do on this section of the show. I'm fortunate enough to have a decent collection of vintage pulling photographs. I've been scanning them in. I've been trying to digitize them. I've been trying to share them with the world. We used to simply just put the pictures on here and I would tell stories from the seat of my pants. Most of these pictures were taken before I was born. Some of them I was 2 or 3 years old. And I said to myself, I'm going to start reaching out to the drivers themselves. I want to hear the story from them. So the photo, the pulling through the past photo that gets us going for tonight actually looks just like this right here. Now, Gerald, here's my trivia question for you. Can you guess when and where this picture was taken?
1985 or 86. I'm guessing in Missouri.
This is the water stamp on the back has this at 1985, and my source tells me pretty sure this is the Missouri State Fair. That was their guess. Their educated guess was that it was the Missouri State Fair. They weren't certain on it.
No, I think we went to a pull that first fall that we bought it. We bought it at Clarence Baughman's farm sale. Picked it up, went right to Spencer to the Clay County Fair, and drove it there. We brought it home. We went south. I can't remember what town it was. A late pull. And ran it, and then we started all over again.
So I had my stories really confused here, and I can't remember if I was talking to Trent or Justin, kind of brought me up to speed. So my dad took this photo, and he said that he always knew you guys as driving the tractor called the Varmint. He says, but this tractor was actually called Hobby Horse. Now, he was under the understanding that it was Hobby Horse named by you, that you had named it Hobby Horse. But if I'm right here, I was talking to the boys earlier today and they said that was the name prior and it was kind of immediately changed over to the Varmint. So set me straight on that story.
Yeah. Like I say, we bought it at a farm sale from Clarence Baughman, and that was the name he had on it. We kept that until we ran it couple passes that fall, and then the next spring rebuilt it over the winter with the help of Steve Webster from St. Joe Diesel. Helped me out, and we rebuilt the motor. Went to a pull, I believe it was in Washington, Iowa, the next spring, and we won the 5, took the 7, broke the nose off the cam, and that was kind of the beginning of the learning curve. Started figuring out what pull was all about. We struggled the rest of that year. At that pull, I was actually was introduced to Joe Bush, and that was the beginning of a lot of years of friendship and an awful lot of help in pulling. went to Joe that fall through the winter. We rebuilt the tractor 100%. Von Bauer did the frame. That was back when he was in his garage, two-car garage next to his house in Peyton, Iowa, before the John Deere planter deals, and introduced that winter to Mark Homer. Took the rear end to him. We took a lot of weight out, and that's when we brought it home. The name, the varmint, that was my dad had a 4030 tractor in the 70s that he ran, 7,000 and 9,000 super stock, single turbo days, and he called it the varmint. So got it all rebuilt in Iowa, brought it home on the trailer. Dad had never seen it yet, and had the varmint on it. So that was, we went back to our family name there, and that's how we campaigned that tractor.
And your father was Earl, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so Trent and Justin here sent me just droves of photos and tons of history. I love it, gentlemen. I love it because this is what this portion of the show is about. This is pulling through the past. We're preserving the past. So I've kind of pulled out some of those photographs here, trying to build this story. So you mentioned your father. He had the original varmint. I'm going to start throwing some pictures up here, and you kind of just walk me through, where these tie in. So is this the original right here?
This is the original. That's how we hauled it for the 3 or 4 years that we had it, and we still have it. We use it here on the farm still. But now that truck's been a few places. Tulsa, Oklahoma, Iowa Fair, Missouri Fair, Nebraska Fair, St. Genevieve, Missouri, down south of St. Louis. They made a lot of circles around the state.
So I watched a documentary a couple of years ago, it's been more than a couple of times getting away from me, about Eddie Seidenstricker's Cajun Queen, one of the real early heavy hitting super stocks in the 1970s. And they said they actually, when they got done pulling it, brought it back to the farm, put the plain work clothes back on it, and it sits there working to this day. And I thought, well, that's got to be the only tractor in the world that moved out of pulling back to the farm, until I was sent this picture. So you guys have done the same thing. Is this the one, the original varmint that your dad had, or is this the one? Is this the hobby horse varmint? Which one is this?
No, this is my dad's tractor. We bought this tractor new in 1973, and farmed with it for 1 year, and then we went to Phil Edwards' shop that winter, and they transformed it into the pulling tractor in his farm shop that winter, and we ran it pulling a couple 3 years there, and then it got to the point where it was steel flywheels were required, safety stuff. My dad was ready to step back out of it. So we just took it to a local mechanic and said, put it back to where we can farm with it. And he got done with it. We brought it home, put it on a 4-bottom plow, plowed with about an hour, and decided that we need to turn the pump down a little bit.
Pushing quite a bit of fuel to it. I've run in.
It came back, still had the intercooler on it that we used with pulling, and small charger, and it ran pretty good for a farm tractor there for a while. We had detuned some more.
When was this photograph taken? I'm assuming it's still doing duty on the farm to this day?
Yeah, it's hooked to the auger at Grandpa's house at the moment. We're unloading beans with it.
It doesn't get to retire yet. It still has a job to do.
No, it still rakes some hay and runs the augers. That picture was taken in the last year or two.
Yeah. Something
go ahead.
When you look at the hood where it's hooked to the auger, the bubble up on the hood is still, form that in, and the welded pipe for the turbocharger down in the manifold, that's all welded in different little pieces, is still how it was when Grandpa pulled it. Dad keeps threatening to clean it up and fix it up. I'm like, no, that's a piece of history.
Absolutely. I'm siding with you on that one. Last week, I had to fly by the seat of my pants. I actually incorporated your photograph into my pulling through the past last week, and I want to hear this story from your side. I was interviewing Tom Gillis, who drove. I had a picture of the Deer Destroyer from 1992, and he said, "Well, I actually wanted to buy." He said, "I wanted to buy Gerald Grimes's tractor." And he says, I wasn't able to. So was there, did Tom come calling at one point, or, what became of this vehicle right here before things were all said and done? Or maybe he wanted to buy this one and you beat him to it. I don't remember the story, but it was somehow he wanted what you had.
No, it was after we rebuilt it and ran it there for 2 or 3 years, as a varmint, light super. And I just sold it to the Herb Brothers in Turlock, California. When Tom called me and said, I'm interested in buying the tractor, I said, that's too late. I already sold it. So yeah, he was that close.
Yep.
Because it was for sale. I made the decision we were going to step back out of pulling, and wife and I, and we're just married and thinking about a family, and that lasted about 3 months, and then I was back in pulling the partnership with Mark Homer on the original weapon.
Yeah, I'd known, or I'd heard through the grapevine, or just heard, as fans chat and whatnot, that you and Mark were partners at one point. I always thought that was really neat, because to me that was two pretty savvy pullers. But Minnow, South Dakota, and Osborne, Missouri, it's not like you're just crossing the county line here. So I was always curious, how is it that comes to be? Other than just a mutual respect and kind of had the same goals in pulling. How did you and Mark sync up in there?
Well, like I said, when we redid the light ship for the John Deere, was introduced to Mark and took their in-housing and stuff up there, and he's a master of that.
Yeah.
And we took a lot of weight out of that tractor. When we got done with it, weighed, with no one on it, weighed just over 4,700 pounds.
Yeah.
We pulled 5,500 pound class with 575 on the front. Pretty amazing for those days.
Right.
But through that relationship and just being good friends, and I got out of pulling, and he called me up and he said, "Hey," he said, "are you interested?" And I thought about it for a little bit and said, "Yeah, Ford Charger Ridge tractor sounds like fun." It took us a while. It took us a couple, 3 years to get it done. It was all built in his shop. Periodically, I would go, or my wife and I would go up, and we'd work on it for 3, 4, 5 days, and then come home. Probably got it out in 93, I believe, was when we debuted that tractor, and stayed partners for a year or so. And then my wife and I decided it was time to start a family, and not enough time or money to do both things. So these boys went out. We started a family, and just took a step back away from pulling there for about 15 years.
It was in 1993. Tyler has told me this story, and Mark's told me it later. 1993, that year you guys said you got it out, was the year that Mark picked up his first Grand National win, and picked up that Grand National win just about 5 miles down the road from where I'm sitting right now at the Show Me Showdown in Macon, Missouri. So they've talked about how that was a very meaningful venture to them. Let's move back with the varmint. So some other photos. We're moving forward here. When is this taken, and what has changed maybe from my photo to your photo here as we move forward with the story?
That is probably 1988. I'm not sure where we're at there. Maybe Farmington, Missouri. I'm not sure. But,
you can see right on the frame some of the things we're talking about with Von Bauer's name down there, and the St. Joe diesel as well. So kind of to add to what you were talking about earlier. Then
they were people that helped me out in the beginning, and like I said, Joe Bush has been there from day one on that tractor, and since I spent more time at his house there for a year or two, about 1987, 88, 89. I think I probably made more family gatherings and birthday celebrations in Boone, Iowa than I did Osborne, Missouri.
So I can't help but notice it looks like somewhere we went from some 40-20 clothes over to some 40-50. Did she get a bit of a facelift in that late 80s as well?
Yeah, that was our first makeover when we went to Iowa with it in 87. And like I said, that's when Bond did the frame. Local guy up there in Boone helped with the sheet metal. The fenders are originals. Those were the ones that really bought the tractor. And tires, those were 2-ply Firestones that were now on it. And Parks sharpened those for me in those days. The original tractor, the back up to the other photo, interesting. Those are BFs. G's on that tractor.
Okay. Yep.
And I think you're right. That may be Missouri State Fair the second year when I was still trying to figure things out with it. But we took those tires to Bob Parks and I said, I need them light. And he shaved all the sidewall rubber off, all the rubber between the lugs, and darn near killed him. He said he hurt for months after that. He said, I'll never do another set. But we lightened them up, and but they didn't work very good. They were like big balloons. So
yeah,
those went by the wayside, and we made some upgrades.
Who's in the photo here? Is this you in the driver's seat and your father walking next to you?
Yeah, he was never very far away back there in the first year or two. And then I got to getting a little farther from home, running some Grand National stuff, and he didn't travel with me near as much. Just things here at the farm, keeping him here. And but yeah, he was always not very far away.
So let's go and tell his story a little bit here. You know, as you guys were kind enough to send me some of these photos. So let's go all the way back to Earl. You know, let's kind of talk about, you know, how he got into pulling and how that got passed down. So tell us about what we're looking at right here.
That was the original varmint tractor. That was probably the very first year it was built. And not sure where that's at, possibly Bethany, Missouri.
Let's step on sled days.
No, we just step on sled.
Be a heck of it. You know, Bethany be a good guess because in the 1970s, if you know, obviously before I was around, but Bethany was the pull of pulls, as I've been told. You know, that was a place where you wanted to go and you wanted to win. So that would not surprise me. He's standing in front of a 560 right here. Now, this confused me a little bit. What are we looking at here?
Now, this is where he started pulling.
Okay.
In the late 60s, he had this 560, and you know, we put a turbo on it, just a regular M&W 560 manifold and stuff. We tried a time or two. We had a 1256 at the time. I actually went to Bethany one year with the turbo off the 1256 on it, and that lasted about mid-track, and then hit gas. You know, back in those days, you did with what you had, and if somebody said, "Have you ever tried that?" And yeah, you just tried it. You went to the track, see what happened, and a lot of times it wasn't good. But that's the way we all learned in the beginning, and you know, there was no such thing as dyno passes.
Right.
All on the track.
So I'm going to do something we don't typically do on this portion of the show. We're going to start looking forward. You know, it's supposed to be pulling through the past, but you know, I'm chatting with a 3-generation set of pullers right here, something that runs deep in your guys' blood. And quite frankly, Trent and Justin, you guys are being way too quiet, so I got to get you all involved a little bit here. So the Just Another Buck, sitting as beautiful in all its glory as everyone kind of knew it. Trent, Justin, is this about the time in the story where you guys kind of enter the scene? Is this where you start pulling when people see this one, or is this still Dad out there pulling? Or, you know, talk to us about how we move from varmint into the Just Another Buck days.
Well, I'm going to take responsibility on the moving from the old varmint to the modern day, because I came along in 1994. So I was, when the family started, the tractor went down the driveway. Ironically enough, the last tractor Dad was partners with was Mark Ulmer, and that is who we kind of credit to twisting our arms to get back into it. We got middle school age, and Mark started coming by, and you know, we got a big driveway here at the farm. Mark would pull in, you know, plug in for the night, and me and Trent got to crawling around in the trailer. He'd say, "Hey, I need a pit crew. Jump in, let's go." Yeah. We started taking us boys, and it wasn't very long that actually we got Mom kind of twisting Dad's arm and said, hey, maybe we ought to think about, the boys are old enough. Maybe we ought to think about getting back into it. So we kind of credit Mark for steering us back into the world of tractor pulling.
I can very easily see Mark just kind of quietly grinning and like pushing someone, and then saying, "Well, I didn't have anything to do with it," and that matches my understanding of his personality. The one X factor here. Tell me about this tractor. Would this have been? Is there a connection between this tractor and this tractor?
That is my first varmint tractor that I sold.
This tractor here and this tractor here are the same tractor.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the California version. When they went through a lot of different changes out there. It's been a 4-charger diesel. It's been a super farm. It's been an alcohol tractor. I mean, they've played with it a lot and did a lot of different things with it.
So this one, as it sits with the Taz graphics or whatever, this is not anything that's sat, in that style. That is after you have sold it. So when did we build the Just Another Buck? Was that what got us back into pulling? Was that tractor? When was that?
We actually purchased that tractor. We didn't build the original 4455. Bought it from Brian Strider. Acquired it through a deal there. We were actually in school, me and Trent, and Mom and Dad went up to look at it and borrowed a neighbor's trailer up there and brought that thing home. And we got out of school, and there was a pulling tractor sitting in our driveway. And
did you know that they had left to go look at the tractor?
We talked about it, but no, it was kind of a surprise deal. How the name came about was when we went to take the trailer back, because me and Trent were not a part of that trip to bring it home, but we had to go back and take the trailer back. We spent the entire trip up into Iowa discussing names and, do we want to keep the varmint? Do we want to go something new? And I think Trent had the idea of, Just Another Buck. We kind of tying the money theme in, pulling cost money, John Deere. We were just brainstorming the whole way. And I think Trent's the one that threw out the name, and it kind of stuck.
And it spent its life in depending on which association you're with. And I've learned, that they really, you got to make sure you're saying the right thing. What I would call an LLP, a light limited pro stock, what my friends on the other side of the Mississippi would call an 8500 limited pro, but it spent its life in that class, correct?
Yeah, it was a 466, 3x4 tractor.
Yep, absolutely. 24 5s on the back. Fun class. Love that class. But the direction that a lot of us have hoped we would see the pulling world moving is into the light pro stock class, the 540, the ones that everyone said that's going to be the next big thing in pulling. Pulling through the past is going to pulling in the future on this special episode. Tell us about what we're looking at right here. Now, of course, if you watch Midwest Winter Nationals, the secret's out of the bag, and if you've talked about pulling, but the Grimes family is moving on. Tell us a story here, guys.
So last year there was talks about the 540 class maybe going component.
Yes.
As a safety and more weight we can move around. And we had a friend of the family that was kind of helping push us along, and we ended up getting a slot with Mike Stinson, down in Ace Chassis. Kind of got really lucky there, and he was able to get started on it. And we debuted it at the Midwest Winter Nationals. Fortunate to make the finals and ended up 4th. So we were really happy. We took it unpainted there, so it was all silver when we took it there. But we already made some changes since then. The wheelie bars were pretty low, and we actually were on the wheelie bars going down the track quite a bit. So we done that and took some more weight from under the belly and got some more movable weight. Got painted now, of course, so it's getting closer. We're getting ready for summer. So
talk to us about, you hit the nose on the head. One of the things that the people were really excited in the pulling world about the light pro class or the 540 class, whatever folks want to call it, going component. And when the Outlaws, wrote that into their rules a year or two ago, that was kind of an exciting thing. Is that something that you feel that we're going to see this class across the board go to? Why is it something that excites you guys?
I guess I can't say, if every organization's gonna get on board with it. We weren't against it. We weren't for it. We just kept hearing from the higher ups that it's going to move that way eventually. And we had a good opportunity in front of us to go ahead and get it done. So that's why we did it.
Sure.
I can tell you it's a lot easier to work on the tractor. But it being component, you can just get to everything a lot easier. A lot more movable weight. Just overall, I can definitely tell it's safer.
Where will we see? So a nice thing that I really appreciate about your guys's, records that you've kept and just the story that you helped me put together is the ability to keep track of all of this history. So, this tractor eventually looked like this tractor, which then now became this one right here. Where did it end up? That's something a lot of fans will contact me. Hey, can you help me track down, granddad's pulling tractor? What became of it? Well, it's really neat when you can say, well, hey, it started here and there she sits. So tell us about the future history of Just Another Buck. Is it still over there in the shop right now? Is it moved on? What's its story?
We sold the chassis.
Okay.
Because we had it since 2019. It's been a light pro, and so we pulled the motor out, sold the chassis complete, and then we were out last year waiting on Ace to get us built. It always takes longer than you think. To get anything done, and when you do a complete build like we did in this day and age, everything is so nicely done.
Yeah.
Such beautiful tractors out there, and it takes time. And we wanted to have something that somewhat of a showpiece when we were done, something that we definitely are proud of. And we, like I said, we took the year off to get things built, but yeah, our old chassis is a 4-1 tractor in Wisconsin right now.
Okay. So what about, I guess, one we shouldn't leave untapped? Any idea where this one, the 560, or did you also say it was a 1456, or there was another IH brand in there somewhere as well? Where would maybe
we had other red tractors, farm with at that time? But no, that one got away. It didn't go very far when my dad sold it, and after he sold it, he always wished he'd kept it.
Sure.
And I never did go out and really beat the bushes hard, but I did inquire here. Oh, when you were about like 12?
Yeah.
I kind of went looking for it. I wanted to get it back to give to Dad. The best I could tell is that it got parted out, pieced away. So I went to a farm sale here in the area and bought another 560, and I was hoping that my dad would take it and restore it. And he worked on it a little bit, not really any interest. And when Justin got in, that middle school age, he got interested in it. So it's kind of become his project, and it's been totally redone a couple times now. And we rake hay with it, and it runs an auger. But yeah, we'd like to have that 560 back.
Sure.
I don't think that one's to be had.
Sadly, when I start doing some research for people, if you don't have a strong, inkling, usually what you find out is they got parted out. Late 80s, early 90s, a lot of things, got sold off into pieces. Final question that I have for you guys. This has been just great learning about all this history and chatting with you folks. This question's for Trent and John. What does it mean to you guys to be third generation pullers?
You want to take a stab at it first?
You grew up just hearing stories, and I guess the knowledge from the past, listen to Grandpa and Dad talk, stuff that I just kind of find natural, because I've heard those stories, or I know what to do here or there, where some people haven't learned that yet, or they had to see it firsthand. Where I already had that back in my mind, certain scenarios and situations, looking at tracks and knowing where to go, what not to do. Just hearing what Dad and Grandpa talked throughout the years on, do this, don't do that. So I think that's helped a lot.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I'd have to say, kind of echo Trent's there. It's the stories, the relationships. We were kind of riding Dad's shirt tails there for a little bit. Being new into the world of pulling. Not having a tractor, all of a sudden we're back into it. And to Dad, it's most of those friendships like they never ended. So me and Trent were brought into the circle of friends that he had for all those years. And so now we've got people we can ask, we can rely on for advice. But to the non-pulling people, some tractors may all look the same going down the track. There's several classes that are similar. Our 540 and a 401 are similar to the untrained eye. But between the stories you've heard, there's still R&D work happening out there. There's still the let's try this and see what happens type mentality. And we've heard stories over the years of stuff that Dad's tried, and we're still trying them today. There's the one-offs. Let's see what happens here. So that the sport is still alive and well in the R&D department. It's just things have gotten a little faster and a whole lot better.
I want to bottle that answer and I'm going to sell it to people. That's one of the coolest things I've heard because, I fear, and I think a lot of people think, well, are we reaching our precipice? Are we reaching the point where pulling is done as much as it can do and everything's just going to be a cookie cutter or a carbon copy? Well, folks, you heard it right here, straight from the puller's mouth. There is still a lot in the R&D department. A lot of things are happening, a lot of things. So as far as you're concerned, this sport's got tons of life left in it. We're just getting started on what there's still to be accomplished. That lights a fire under me. That is a great statement from a great pulling family. Guys, I really appreciated this. A lot of folks, the best I hope for is they'll come on and they'll tell me a story or two about a picture my dad took, 40 years ago. You guys followed up and you sent me, a complete and total family history. Wonderful, wonderful to be able to talk about pulling's past and pulling's future. Gentlemen, I wish you the best of luck in 2025 on the brand new tractor. Hopefully we'll see you out at a couple of pulls this year. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you much.